What's up, everyone? Therapy Without a Degree, chapter 191. 191 episodes. We here, myself, you guys already know, Joe Fiucarino is in the studio. And then we got to the side of me somewhere over here is Natalie. What up?
Hey, how are you guys?
What's going on?
Missing you. Yes, but we're here in the virtual world, making it happen.
Love the new haircut.
Thanks. I love it too. It's so easy. I understand why guys never grow long hair.
Yo, you feel right? Hey, this is the easiest though. Hold on, you're muted. Ooh.
Sorry. Okay. And listen, I love it. If I wanted to lay flat, I just wrap it and keep it moving. It's so much easier. Can I FaceTime Papa? No. Thank you.
Hello, Mello. Everyone in the world say hello to Mello.
She's over there. She just ran off again. They're distracted. You're going to hear two voices occasionally. That's them going nuts over there.
The listeners will understand. So question that, is that piercing you have right here your septum piercing?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. It goes all the way around. It just goes through this little gap right here that you have right under the cartilage of your nose, where it's like the thinnest. It's really not that bad.
So it's funny because I was going to ask you something about that piercing, and I knew you had a piercing. Like I wasn't exactly sure if it was that. I wasn't sure if you had the nose piercing. Like I knew you had some piercing around there, and I was going to ask you anyway about the septum piercing. I was going to say, does it leave a big hole? Does it close easily?
Okay, so generally, if we're talking about piercings that have been in the same location for more than 2 years, then we can consider that a long-term piercing that's not going to close easily. But the upside about the area is that the scar is pretty discreet because it's inside of your nose. So even if you're at an angle, you don't really see it unless you have a really prominent dip in your nose. But otherwise, I mean, the healing is really not that bad. For me, I think nasal piercings, anything in the mouth, are pretty easy to heal. It heals pretty quick.
Interesting. Does it on the pain level of a 1 to 10? What would you say?
I want to say that it's probably going to be like 5 and up. I think.
Okay.
Depending on the person's tolerance, because it is a little bit thicker than dealing with like areas like this of your ear that are a little bit thinner and softer. Yeah. It's more akin to getting something up here on the harder part of your ear. This is just a little bit thicker than this over here. This is more dense, so it just varies from person to person. But honestly, with piercings, they're so quick that as long as you're breathing, that you'll get through it. If you're holding your breath, that's when you have a problem.
It's so there's a kid out there somewhere in the world that's 13. They're about to be 13 years old in a week, and they want it for their birthday.
Which piercing?
Septum.
Oh, that's a big one. I mean, it's easy to hide, but my inclination says to wait, because it although it's a pretty easy piercing, it's it can be finicky, and a lot of places aren't necessarily doing them right now because they're under the mask. But if you can find a good reputable place to do them that pierces minors, then ask a lot of questions and make sure that she's ready for the aftercare, because aftercare is the most important thing. And, even with adults, I see, sometimes people not get good aftercare or not follow it correctly. And then that's where some issues come up with healing a piercing out.
Yeah, now that you said that, it's in a weird spot that can get a little... All right, something to think about.
You have to be very intentional about cleaning it, because you're going to get boogers, you get discharge, you get things like that. And then we're wearing our masks, which is, a pro in this sense, because it's covering it, but it's a con in that, it's always being covered with your mask.
Yeah, so, maybe irritated or whatnot. Yeah. I mean,
little things to think about.
Yeah, it's just interesting. So if anyone out there in the world right now, wants to get it for their 13th birthday and you hear this, just think about it twice.
Just think about it, because there will always be piercers in the world. Our jobs are not going to get taken over by robots.
Yes, exactly.
Barbers, nail salons, tattoo shops, and debt collectors are not gonna be out of a job.
Can you imagine the debt collector robot? I am
Oh
not
no.
ready. I am not ready for him. He'll be
No,
here.
that's a horror story. That's a horror story. The debt collector robot. That is an unsympathetic person.
Yo, if Zane was on here right now, I'd be like, yo, that's a short film. That's a short film we gotta create. The debt collector robot.
They know that you're inside. You can't egg them. You can't ignore their phone call. They just bypass it. There's no way around.
Damn, they're getting annoying. Like, yo, I'll tell y'all one thing, right? So I got some debt. So I definitely have the debt collectors calling me. But then the person that had my number before me had debt too. Like they got like, so now I'm just getting double whammy. I'm just getting like,
oh, that's
just
funny.
Fucked just twice, just every day, like from
oh my God,
from my phone calls and their phone calls. So yeah, I'm about to switch up my number.
Oh yeah, make sure when you get those debt collector calls, guys, to tell them to confirm it in writing for you and send it to your address in paper form.
Look at that,
because sometimes they're calling you and they're knocking and they have no evidence that you owe them something. So debt collectors are known for being grimy.
Yes. Yes. For real.
I'm sorry to all the debt collectors with a heart of gold. I'm sorry, man, because everybody else makes it bad.
Nah, they know the vibes. There are certain jobs out there that it's like, yo, you gotta have like bounty hunters and all that.
I could never, man. I could never.
Oh, that's tough because, yeah, someone we know that used to do that, right? Is that what they did?
Oh, damn.
Someone we know?
Oh no.
Okay, it was different. It was different. Okay. I'm about to say, yo, that's a tough one.
Kicking down doors and being like, I'm looking for this person. Like, excuse me?
But
we're talking about bounty hunters. Yeah, that's you got to be a special kind of person to do that. I don't know.
Yo, like, I'll never forget. They came through one time and they got my mom because she went, she hopped out on her bail. And like it was one of the worst days of my life. It was so horrifying. And I'll never forget it. And I could just imagine how they felt. Like, I could just, like, some of them don't have no heart. Okay, and then you don't have a heart. But I could imagine the ones that do have a heart, how horrifying that is.
I mean, it's hard because, on one end, you have to draw a line in the sand as to how far you're going to go in this career. At the end of the day, because it's not like you trip and fall and end up on a bounty. Sorry. Yeah. You're seeking out that job. You know what I'm saying? That contract or that agreement for whatever reason. And if somebody who's a bounty hunter is listening to this and wants to correct me, please do, because I want to know more. I could be totally wrong on how this happens, but I'm sure that you guys don't stumble upon bounties and it's like, oh, you know what? I just so happen to stumble across this. I'm going to do it. Like, no, it's something that I'm sure is well thought out, is planned. You can't just approach people a certain way. I'm sure that there has to be some level of knowledge and how to apprehend somebody. What do you do next after that? I mean, I could never. I could never.
Yeah. And I think like I think like almost anyone could like do it. Like I think it's not, well, I mean, I don't know about now, but back in the day, like I think my dad told me one time that he did it for a little bit for something, for a certain, because I think it's for the bail bonds. I think the bail bonds, who hired.
That is very interesting.
I think that's how it works. I think the bail bonds are the ones that hire them.
Now I am curious.
You're gonna look it up, right?
I'm going to make a note so I can look this up.
Word, yeah. So that would be really interesting to get back to.
We're gonna have to interview a bounty hunter.
Yes. Dude, they going crazy over there.
Yeah, I know.
They're like, yo, we're gonna turn up for therapy without a degree.
Listen, it was quiet last time because I had them in my room all the way in the front of the house.
Yeah.
But they're all over the place. They're very excited. It's the second day in a row they get to hang out with each other. No, third day in a row. So.
Oh, they vibing, right? Yeah, today's Monday. What have I been up to? All I've been doing is just working, work. A lot of working over here. I've been trying to be consistent in the gym. Trying to make these changes. You know what I'm saying? That's tough. It's tough staying consistent. So
It
I've
is.
been, yeah, I've been doing that. Me and Zane the other day though, and it's funny because while I say that, then I'm going to shout out the pizza place that me and Zane went to. He brought me
It's a balance.
to
It's
my
a
weakness.
balance.
Yeah, he
It's a
brought me
balance.
to my weakness. So shout out to Brick and Dough Pizza. I'm gonna do my shout out early.
That
Yeah,
sounds so good.
nah, yo, it was dangerous. That it was rough. It was rough.
Mm.
What about you? What you been up to?
Oh my God, lots of emails. I'm thinking that this summer is going to be very busy. Um, you know, I'm not gonna complain, but wow.
Mm.
So I've been thinking of just new approaches on how to handle like the excess in emails. Um, yeah, and we're now we're able to kind of step a little bit forward and take just a couple more walk-ins. So that's good. So that means we're gonna be busy. But yeah, between homeschooling and emails and this balance, I'm just happy that we haven't had a snow day this week because it felt like we had one snow day a week in February every week for this short month. There's 28 days and we had probably like 5 snow days, you
Yeah.
know. So I'm so looking forward to the spring. I'm looking forward to this warm weather, and I'll take rainy days back to back any day over a New Jersey snowstorm.
Yes, I second that, yo.
Yeah.
I hate this damn snow. I hate it.
So I just keep thinking of things to look forward to. So, the music on the ride to work or that quiet time, between getting out your car and getting into your job.
Yeah.
Thankful for my clients. I've had some really, really incredible clients. I've transitioned almost 100% to Zoom virtual consults. So I haven't had any in-person consults recently. And that has been
Wow.
a big weight off of my shoulders, which is, just awesome. It's quick, it's efficient. And clients are happy that they don't have to be in any type of unnecessary contact or even make their way from their car all the way to see me. We're going to have the same conversation. So
yeah, it makes sense. Like, you might as well. Like,
I'm surprised that I never did this before, to be honest with you. And I'm hearing a lot of other artists that do like similar work, having those feelings, of just feeling like, damn, why didn't I do that? Because, in a lot of ways, the pandemic happened and it was just like, all right, now you have to be, really think outside the box in regard to marketing. But these were things that some people that were taking clients overseas or that were just out of state even were dealing with as well. And we're doing even before this. So I think it's just interesting. I just think to myself, why didn't I start this before? Because, wow, it closes the deal a lot faster.
Yeah. Like
it works.
There's definitely some things that are, we still need to do in person. You know what I'm saying? Like, but there's a lot of just basic stuff that could just be done virtually through the internet. The internet is so powerful. It's helps us out in so many different ways that we have to take advantage of it. So this kind of did, and I knew this was going to happen. Like I've been telling people, like, think about their job because their job's going to get taken away from technology. But at the same time, while there's a lot of cons, there's a lot of pros. Like I love technology for a lot of different reasons. Oh, we went to the forest. We went. So there's a lot of pros and cons with it as well. So, but what I wanted to talk about today, like I said, whatever, if you have anything on your mind, if you have any topics, let me know. We can close out with, right? But I wanted to start with, so I had this conversation with Jaylene, and I just mentioned, because I've been looking into real estate and I've been studying real estate. So, I'm not where the point I am right now. I'm not able to buy anything yet. So I got to fix all my stuff. I got to fix my financials, got to fix my credit, but I'm educating myself because, I feel like, okay, if I educate myself now daily, by the time I'm really, really able to, to invest, then I'll be good. I'll have the education, I'll have the money, I have the credit, and I'll be good. So I just I look at places, and I was looking at one place by her area because where she lives, the real estate is a lot cheaper. It's way more affordable than it is over here. Like, and that's pretty much most of the U.S. Like most of the U.S. except for like Jersey, New York, Cali, Miami. It's decently affordable. We just forget about it because we're from here.
Yeah.
So I just looked at a house, and it had 3 apartments inside, and then it had an office / studio. So that's 4 income streams. You know what I'm saying? And I just had the conversation. I just told her, I was like, hey, I'm looking at this, looking at that. He was like, Jamestown. She was like, why? And I'm just like, well, it's affordable. And also I got into the fact of that I would love to actually help rebuild a city. Like I see that as like almost powerful. And then like, being able to rebuild the city, like obviously I'm so low on the total, like I'm just starting to even look. But I think big,
Oh, of
so,
course, absolutely.
so I'm like, yo, how dope would that be to like add value in the town that she's in, or whatever, or who's anyone. Like I think that's dope to be able to add value to that and to say like, yo, I helped improve that city. I helped improve that town. Like you watch it grow. And then it brought me to the conversation of gentrification. And then it got me to really look, because you always hear, at least me, like I'm not, you guys know how I am. You hear it here and there, and you hear a lot of people against it. But then I'm like, okay, where's that balance then? Like, where is that balance of you want to have your city be better, and you want improvements, and you want the homes to be improved, but then you also don't want them putting people on the street.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on it just in general? Like first of what's your thoughts on that whole like conversation of what I had with her, like your thoughts on that, and then as far as the whole gentrification side to it.
I do think that there's a balance. I think a balance does exist. But unfortunately, I think that anybody who is making millions of dollars perhaps loses sight of certain things like that, and it becomes more about the profit as opposed to actually helping people and still being able to make a profit. There's a way to do that, but I think it especially when we're talking about what you're regarding as gentrification, which is really like price gouging, right? And I think to a certain extent it is exploitation. You're exploiting these cities for tax cuts and a means of gaining these properties with no intention of having them be available to the very people that live in these towns. That's when I see a problem, when there isn't necessarily a means for regular everyday working class people to participate in these things that are supposed to be making the city better, but it's only making the city better in pictures, right? And for the media, as opposed to what the everyday people that are existing in that town experience. So I think that it can be done when we're talking about buying a big apartment building. You could take a couple of those apartments and make them high priced, fine, but you can't price all of them out in such a way that you're buying people out. And I think if that is like the foundation, if we're looking at housing as a right, as opposed to housing as a luxury, I think it can definitely change the dynamic of that conversation, where we're going from luxury, right? Luxury being on the end of exploitation, and or obviously a luxury product being something that people choose to indulge in. Fine, indulge in it, but there's a way of doing it without, I think, hurting people. So yeah, I do believe it can happen, and I think that we've seen it happen in some places. Places like Patterson, where you might have seen like houses that were just torn up, where you had real estate developers that are from the city kind of go in and buy out these houses and remake them and then sell them, or make affordable apartments, right? I've seen that happen. We've experienced it. And then on the other end, we've seen people come into the city and buy out crazy giant building and then make luxury housing. So we've seen both, but I think what is really happening in the grand scheme of things is that somebody like you that has 50,000 or 100,000, whatever, and is like, I'm gonna invest in properties, is not looking to exploit. Do you get what I'm saying? $100,000 is not exploitation money. That's, I need to invest this and get it back money.
Exactly.
Right? when you're talking about $1 million investments, you know, multi-million-dollar investments, when you're talking about backroom deals, when we're talking about tax cuts, that's when we're talking about things that affect the people in those communities. So, you know, you do have to understand that there is a way of doing it where it is moral, you know, and when you're talking about helping, then we do inevitably have to see housing as a right. Because if you don't, then there's, what other direction do you have, right? You know, and when I mean housing as a right, obviously there's going to be people that pay for housing, but there's obviously going to be people that are homeless that can't afford it. What do they deserve? What is considered a right? A safe place over your head, a place to use the bathroom comfortably and eat. That doesn't require 600 square feet, right? So, you know, there's a balance, I think. And I think that it's a beautiful thing to want to invest in your community, because I feel the same way. And I think anybody that loves a city or even, you know, sees a means of helping, that help has to come in conjunction with the people that already live there and the things that they experience in their lived experience and how they feel that they might need to be helped, and kind of combining those things, right? Where you feel like you can help and where they feel that they actually need the help, and bridging that gap between what's actually needed as opposed to what people think is needed, right? I think that's when we can come to like a morally good place to start at investing in property and also fulfilling the needs of the people. I think there's a place that exists. I truly do. You know, I don't think that people need to exploit to make that money. It so happens to be the quickest way to make the money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know, because that's where I see it. You know, like I've never seen it as in like, oh, you know, like you're gonna exploit. Like, you know, you're doing it to really just improve, you know, to help people out. And like you said, the prop to not even like go crazy, like, you know, not even change the rents. Like, I think that's crazy, you know, when you change the rents to a building that was once $800 a month to $1,400 a month. No, you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, if you did some improvements on it, it may be going to go from 850 to 925 or something.
But there's a percentage that we can reasonably say. You get what I'm saying? We can reasonably say, hey, you know, this is the rent here and it's going to raise 2% every year. Is that affordable for you? Does that line up with your wages? You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing that's not necessarily being asked. I think, because I mean, we're in North Jersey, right? Just look at the prices in South Jersey and the difference between what that is. If you go even down to Central Jersey, which some people think doesn't exist, it does. It does. And they have really good housing prices. I remember looking for apartments and just was like, let me just see what the apartment prices are like an hour away. Because I remember having to move an hour away as a kid, and it was more affordable. We had, you know, a 3-bedroom apartment in a private neighborhood and that kind of thing, but we lived an hour away, and the commute was hard, and that's not for everybody, you know. But wow, to compare it from, you know, here to there, it's such a big difference. And house pricing is, to some extent, a combination of, you know, what bills are being passed and what policy is being passed. Because when you go to towns or cities that have rent control, that's because it's necessary. And that's because there was some type of legislation that was passed. So even if, like, you know, you're listening to this and you're curious, not even on the real estate part, but as somebody that lives in a community, right, and potentially wants to help these things, it starts with a conversation. You know, all cities have town hall meetings. All cities have a website that you can literally go to, and you can search town hall meetings, and you can see how to participate, you know, in those meetings, and how to get in touch with your mayor, or how to get in touch with your legislators in that sense. That does have an effect on housing, and that does have an effect on gentrification. Because ultimately, right, you're talking about in regards to gentrification and the difference between the good and the bad, and is that there's lobbyists as well that are lobbying against rent control. For what other reason? To make more money. Yeah. So there, a place exists where we can see this happen, and I think that in reality, the only way forward into a sustainable future is that there's no other way, because otherwise, we're gonna have a big homeless population, worse than what we have right now,
100%.
if this housing shit doesn't get under control. And the pandemic exposed the true housing crisis that I think that not only North Jersey being so close, I think we feel it, of course, because we're so close to these places, like you said, New York, Miami, California, like, because we're in those hot spots. But man, this is definitely something that is happening all across America, and even even in its territories like Puerto Rico, it's happening a lot. So it is a big problem. And I think that, when you have people like you that have these ideas to actually provide a means of stability for people, or a means of housing that is just right, that's where the true help can happen. Because there's always going to be Joes in this world, and that's what we kind of have to focus on, right? How can we do that and do it right? Right? How can we hire people? How can we have a super in the building that's also making money that maybe can help him, right? And all these different things that fall in line, that there's a place for everybody, and there's a job for everybody that's available. And it's a small business. That at the end of the day, you'd be a small business owner owning a home.
Exactly. It is a business, and like you said, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to rate people. You don't have to do that point. That part. Where you can develop it, and you could still keep, and I watch a lot of stuff too. And when I'm learning these things, is typically like you don't even have to increase the prices, much.
Yeah.
Depending on the doors, like you don't have to do all that. Even with some renovations. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, if you're going to renovate the place, there's you're going to get that back anyway from the cash flow of the business. So it's like you don't have to go crazy. And then it's like, I think it is something positive, as long as you're keeping things around an even keel, a pretty balanced perspective. Like it benefits, you know what I mean? Like why would you want to walk down your block and see an abandoned home every day? You know what I'm saying? Like we complain about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you hear, we always talk shit. We always talk shit about, being in like the hood, or being, in a fucked up neighborhood. You hear people talk about it. So then it's like, okay, what could we do about it? You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, is I think it's in helping your city, or helping, where you're from, or where your parents are from, or whatever. But like you said, it's that balance of, okay, you could do that, but it has to be done, right.
Yeah. And also to add to that as well, because I think that you make such great points, is, urging your city to participate in these things as well. Because just like you said, that there's these abandoned houses that are passed by. Who owns these houses? The bank owns these houses. These houses are vacant, sitting there empty, with no one there, while surely 8 out of 10 times we can go right down the street and see somebody who's homeless. So obviously not every single one of these closed homes is going to go to homeless folk, but is it unreasonable to think that the city can get some type of grants from the state to buy up these homes and maintain them and make affordable housing? That's also a way that can be helped. Yeah. There are so many incredible solutions, and it takes that, you know what I'm saying? It takes that both sides. The regular person that's willing to invest, because you're to my right. and legislators and people that are also in positions of power, that have something to obviously to gain from it, to unify in that way as well. Because man, imagine if, let's just say, if 50% of those houses that were foreclosed were able to be affordable housing. Imagine the change in just one city. What can happen with that?
Yeah.
It's the possibilities are endless, and it just is a matter of taking the first step. Yeah.
And it's like there, it's better than just sitting there.
Yeah.
Like there's payments going to go to it. Like when we say affordable housing, we're not saying for free.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, maybe close to it at some points, but affordable means maybe $600 a month, 500, whatever. Like, just like that's something that's better than it just sitting there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, even there's so many businesses and other apartments. Like, I've noticed some apartments, I mean, who knows what the real reason why they do it, but I've noticed
Mm-hmm.
some apartments in Jersey, like, they're reaching out to some people that are in Section 8, and they're saying,
Oh yeah.
hey, do you want to take this apartment? We're opening X amount of, options to
Mm-hmm.
Section 8 or a
Mm-hmm.
very close Section 8 option,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, are you really trying to do it to just diversify your, who's in there? Like, what's the motive behind it? Or are you really trying to help some people out?
I mean,
No.
honestly, it could be a combination of things. And I'm not gonna lie, I would rather somebody coming to the right conclusion for maybe the wrong reasons,
Yeah.
and as opposed, or even having to twist their arm a little bit to come to the right conclusion, than them not doing anything at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, what I mean, from my knowledge, and again, anybody listening to this, they know more. Tell us, call in, write us,
Yes.
email us, send us a DM, and I want to talk about this, or I work with this housing, or this is a way to help. Come on our show, because we're always open to having people that are much more knowledgeable than us
Yes.
on these things, that live it. And I think, I mean, it's contractual. So the state government or the federal government will give grants for housing in that way, and so then it has to be like, okay, X amount of percentage of housing is going to be dedicated to Section 8 or low income housing, or however it is, and then we're going to pay a certain percentage of it, and then the person who's paying the rest will pay whatever it is that their agreed amount is. But I mean, um, you know, I guess to compare to just making money from the government for doing the right thing. Hey, there's concerns with it, but if people are getting helped out, then
It
I
doesn't
don't
matter.
really have a lot to
Yeah.
complain about. I don't
Exactly.
have a
Yeah.
lot to
It's
complain
taking it.
about. We can fix things around the edges, right? I'll take that. I'll take I'll take improvement over time than nothing being done at all,
Yep.
and
Small
and it
steps.
being worse in the long term.
Thousand
So
percent.
for sure, for sure.
And I think a lot of people that are against, because like when you mentioned about, there's so many like people that are homeless and these different, affordable housing and affordable services. Like, I always try to hear what, other people's perspectives are and stuff like that. And then it's like you
Mm-hmm.
always hear when people have an issue with it, they say, oh well, then they're just gonna live on it forever. you know? And
That's not how things work. I mean, of course, you're gonna
exactly.
have people that are on the fringes, that are the small percentage of people that do live off this stuff. But we have to keep in mind. Oh, you'll be okay. Tell Dad. He's right here. Um, that are not able-bodied,
Yeah.
that might not want to work, that don't have the desire to work, that for them being home or doing that, or they might be disabled or mentally incapable, whatever reason, there's a certain percentage of the population that are not going to work, that should be able to live comfortably, right, and still get the things that they need. And then I mean, but the myth that people are going to stay on it forever, I mean, you're going to have people that slip through the cracks. Our system is definitely imperfect. Absolutely, it's not perfect. But to that, I say provide. Step B, step C, step D, resources. Hey, here's your living. You get this for a year for $2 a month, $3, whatever freaking agreement you decide to make with that person. Okay, now here's a job program. Here's a work study program. Here's this. And at the end of this, you get a job. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're picking up garbage from the floor. A job is a job.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? And so I think that there's ways to make these jobs accessible to people, to make the learning of this knowledge, to be able to have a job, right? That's the resource, is that if somebody doesn't know how to do something, well, let's teach them. If they're willing to learn, if they're willing to put this much hard work and effort into becoming a working member of society, yo, you got to give it to them. There's people that want it and they just might not have that resource right there. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
anything
So
that drive. I mean, that's when the whole mental health conversation comes into it. But there's so much to why sometimes people just need that ball rolled a little bit for them. Doesn't matter if they're a grown adult, a child,
no,
whoever. I mean, people need that, and I think that's the conversation that happens a lot. People mention that, and people say, "Oh, well, then they're gonna live on it forever." But you're right. It's the systems after, and I will say, like you
yes.
said, it's flawed. It's definitely not perfect, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
I've been around I have a lot of friends who've been on different programs or whatnot, Section 8 and all these different things,
Mm-hmm.
and I will admit the programs are just trash. Like they're just not
Mm-hmm.
as far as helping them get out of it.
Yeah, I think
Like
that there's a lot of outdated thoughts around it as well.
yes,
I think that there's some things legally that need to be changed. That to some extent um force people to lie and or do things that they might not want to do um to get the help that they need. And because they're required to lie to get this help, now you're stuck in a position where if you have to keep up the lie when you tell the truth, you're going to get that help taken away from you. So I think that there's definitely flaws, because I think we all know somebody that perhaps has taken advantage of it. Um, just like we all know, probably for every one person we've seen taken advantage, we know two people that need it. So that's something that just the system in itself needs to be fixed with that, and that really is going to only be done with pressure, with some type of political pressure to change it, because
yeah,
otherwise it won't change if people aren't complaining about it.
of course, and let's be real. If people are gonna get it, they're gonna take it. Like yo,
Mm-hmm.
if you're gonna give me unemployment, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it, right? But
Yeah,
at the
but if
same
that's my
time,
tax money that I'm getting back at the end of the day,
yeah,
there needs to be this thing. People, there's so much of this thought about handouts, this, handouts, that, and really understand that we are in a social contract, right? You pay your taxes, you've worked, you've paid your taxes. If you get unemployed, if you get unemployment and you max that shit out, then so be it. Then so fucking be it. Because guess what? You're not going to starve. That person is not going to starve now. That person has food on their table. That person has food for their family, housing that they can still rely on because they get that unemployment. So at the end of the day, I mean, you know what? I think people should take it. I think people should take it to the extent that it's you getting your own money back that you pay taxes on is not taking advantage. That is collecting what is owed to you.
exactly.
And that's the difference, I think, between the taking advantage and the participating as a member of society and getting what is owed to you, the same way that you're owed retirement after working for 60 something odd years, and Medicare. Like
Yeah,
it's the least that you can give me.
and why should you have to wait that long just to reap the benefits? They make you wait that
I
long because
agree.
they know probably a certain percentage of the people aren't even going to live.
It's not gonna
Yeah,
live to see that. Yeah.
exactly. And it's like, what's crazy too is when we say this, I even think about it. Like, there's been a time, I've been on unemployment, and have I once gotten some direct like question to say, hey, why can't you find a job? Like an actual like, and I think there needs to be things like that, because it's like, okay, well, if you're gonna complain about me taking the money, then you got to do something to help me not take it. Like, why
Mm-hmm.
isn't there someone in my email every week like, hey Joe, let's get you on a phone call and let's see what type of jobs you like. Let's see what your interests are. What are you good at, or how's your mental health? Why aren't you finding a job? Why aren't you like? None of that. They just let you, and I get it. We're all grown adults, but still, it's like, yo, if they really care about that money being used and me using that money or whatever that is, then it's like, you need to create a good system for me to stop doing it.
Yeah.
Like,
No, and I agree. I think that that's the situation that we're in, where there's a system of aid, and then a system that leads you to paths where we can um get that assistance, right? And actually maneuver through these programs with that's not so gray. What I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of times we're maneuvering through these social programs, and there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of loops that you have to jump through to get certain things. There's a lot of waiting and long lines and a lot of waiting on phone calls. And I wonder to myself, well, there has to be jobs, right, for people in unemployment agency to answer phone calls, right? That's a job. Yep. There has to be a means that, okay, maybe you don't have the resources to do that. Maybe expand. You're a government agency. Y'all can get federal money. Hire people. Hire people.
Hire the people that you're giving the money to. Look at that.
There's a
that's
job
such a
for
simple
every
method.
skill
Yeah.
set.
Exactly.
There's a job for every skill set out there.
Yes.
It's a matter of providing those opportunities and connecting the dots. And I think that there's just not enough of people helping to connect the dots, because maybe it's just the system and maybe it's the way that it is meant to be, right? To be vague, to have to wade through the system, to have to wait in it for so long, or to be in it for so long, or to be in that cycle of that, right? That poverty cycle over and over and over again. So, it is, I agree with you. I think it's deeper than just well, why can't you find, why are there no jobs available? It's deeper than, oh, well, the place down the street is not hiring. It's, are they paying you a living wage, or are they asking you to work 80 hours a week and still not be able to pay your rent?
Yeah, there's so many things to
it. Some people don't have, some people I'm going to hear say, oh, well, a job, get the job, doesn't matter. But what is it worth getting paid $7 an hour, $8 an hour, maybe less after tax? New Jersey's state minimum is what, like $7.60 something cents? What is it worth getting paid that when you don't see your family, when you still can't pay the light bill? Now you're tired and you have a little bit of money, but you're working, then you can't get assistance.
Yeah,
it's hard. Sense. It's easy to fall through the cracks, and that's my concern with the system is that in itself, that there's those people that fall through the cracks and don't find their way out, and there's nothing there to kind of help them get up, or no clarity. And we can't depend on automation for that. That's human work to ask the hard questions and not the survey. That's work that I think humans need to do, to really understand how we can make it more of a humanitarian effort, right? As opposed to just a box that we're checking off, on our federal New Jersey approval grant list over here.
Yeah, you're right. It's so crazy. Like, there's so much more into it. And it's like, if they really, really cared
very
about,
complicated.
Yeah, it's a lot of things to it, but it could be done. Like, it's like, if they really cared about help, all the supposedly handouts they give, if they really cared, then they would fix the problem. But they don't care. They don't really care, because if that's the case, then they would fix the issues. Like,
it always ends up back there, Joe. And that's, that's the core of it is, are we dealing with officials that don't care? Are we looking at a community that the people care more about each other than the officials that were elected to do that job and potentially get the ball rolling? Right? So it's an inside outside job.
Yeah. It's all the Band-Aid though. It's the Band-Aid with every single thing, even the healthcare, they just want to treat this, the symptom. They don't actually care about the root cause. They don't even check up about the root cause.
Yes.
They just want to give you something to make you don't feel the pain. Same thing in jail. Jail, they lock you up for the reason why you did it. Then they let you out and they probably don't even check up on you to see if you're going to do it again, because they don't give a fuck. Like, there's so many different things we can go on for fucking hours with that. But
no, it's so true. It's so true. I mean, the simplest thing I think is if we just look at if we look at orphanages, or people or kids that are parentless, or end up in the foster system somehow, other people get paid to take care of these children, and that's money that could have very well been poured into helping a parent raise a child for that parent. So obviously, if it's not a extenuating circumstance that can be alleviated and fixed, why would you not want to use that money that you're giving to a stranger to take care of a child instead to give it to the parent for resources so that child can stay with their parent?
Yeah, to coach that parent, to put them through, professional development courses or whatever it is, whatever, rehabs,
If you don't
whatever it
know, how are you
is.
supposed to know? You have to learn, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I wonder, like, okay, why take a child away from somebody if, let's say, they were, outside of being mentally incapable of taking care of this child? How could we help keep the situation together as opposed to a kid getting lost in the system and we see what happens 9 times out of 10 and how horrifying that system can be? Or what using the example of somebody going to war and then coming back and having some type of mental health issue and then not being able to find housing, or being a homeless veteran. Like, these are just the deepest examples of these things that are happening in our own that are examples of I think negligence, really, on the part of people that have the resources, that have the funds to help, but are not doing it.
Yeah, that's a bar right there. You're definitely right, and that just goes hand in hand to what we were really first talking about. Because that's going to really, determine the area, the city, the town. You know what I mean? That's going to
and what those individual needs are, because it's going to be different from town to town. And it truly is I think a yeah, I mean, I think it's a group effort. I think it's a group effort. Truly it is. Because it's not going to get done just with the people screaming and shouting and, because that's not going to get done unless you tear the whole house down. And nothing's going to get done if it's just the officials that are pushing and pushing, pushing, and maybe the people don't want it. You get what I'm saying? So there has to be a group effort in this, and come to some type of agreements and conclusions. So, we have a future that's worth having, right? For our kids and for our neighbors, and, it's not only us that have to live in this world. Even when we're gone and we're not here anymore, we got to leave something behind that we fought for hard.
Yeah. What change would you like to see in your city?
That's a great question. Recently our city, I live in Passaic now. But recently, they had, did like some kind of like essay, or like a feedback sort of thing. And one of the questions was, if you had $10,000, how would you use it in your city? And I thought that was a wonderful question. And I thought to myself, just, okay, like, how can we stretch $10,000, right? And just, okay, what can we do? Like, is it worth it to do this and that? And I think one thing that I really would like to see would just, be like we had over here, a boys and girls club, or the YMCA in Passaic. There's both. I believe the YMCA at one point had a pool in it that they used for a long time, like, for the community, but now it's transitioned into being almost fully a homeless shelter. But so I don't think the pool is necessarily used. So I would love to see like those things that are centered around community functions just invested into a little bit more. Like, for example, like the parks, or the recreation, like the actual recreation area, right? A building, with pools and facilities and things of that nature that I think all the kids in the city, I think, could enjoy and really thrive from and get from. And even some type of, even some type of like, hiring program that's dealing with, like, this intersection between like mental health and homelessness. I think that's a big thing too. You know, the homeless population over here isn't really crazy like that. I mean, there is one, but it's not. It's really not horrible compared to other bigger cities. Um, but I agree with you. I think that somebody needs to be asking those questions. Hey, how did you get here? What did you do before you got here? You know, what led you to being homeless and having to sleep outside and that kind of thing. I think, because I don't feel like there's enough of that.
Yeah. And like, some people don't realize, yo, it's so easy. It's so easy to get into those predicaments.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Dude,
saying?
it's
Like,
one or two paychecks away, man.
yeah.
I urge anybody, you know, listening to this now that, you know, maybe hasn't talked to somebody that was homeless, or, I don't know, or doesn't know anybody that is. There's a YouTube channel called Invisible People, and the gentleman that does the documentaries was previously homeless, and he just talks about his experience in that. And he has, I mean, probably thousands at this point of interviews that for our, like, from now to like 8 years prior. And he just interviews families, you know, living in their vans, or people living on the side of the road, or all these different people and scenarios, and they just really talk about how they got there, what happened, the jobs that they had beforehand, or the experiences that they lived through. And I think it's really telling, because you see and you hear a lot of the same things, and it makes you wonder, what's the issue here? Is it the people, or is it the world that we're living in? And I think that if you listen to enough stories, you realize that it's obviously not the people that just wake up one day and realize, oh, I'm gonna just be homeless, or I'm gonna live with my kid in this van until we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a reality. It is. No, it truly is. So, you know, that solving the homeless crisis inevitably solves so many other things from there. Yeah. Because there's so many people that we don't even know are homeless that are homeless. And you wouldn't know unless you asked them, because people are very good at, you know, hiding these things, because there's a lot of shame around it, and there's a lot of, oh, they did something wrong to deserve that, or maybe they're not working hard enough, and this and that. And just like you said, it's so easy to get there. You just never know.
It's so fucking easy, yo. Like, I was homeless for a little bit. I was homeless for about a good 2 months. It wasn't a long time, but it's a long time. It's a
I'm sure
long
it felt like a long time, though.
Yeah,
It's
a long time when you're homeless. I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, those 2 months is rough. You know, you gotta sleep in the car, and then it starts to get cold, and then it's like running your car on all night, and it's like, is that safe? And
yes,
yo, it's tough, yo. It's just, and like what you were saying before, it's like, yo, like the money that you make, if you make minimum wage and you work 40 hours a week, it's barely enough to pay for a one bedroom apartment.
Yep.
And then it's like to pay for food, to pay for gas. It's tough, yo. Like, it's especially over here. Like, it's tough to live on your own and to be able to afford it. And, you know, when you really add everything, especially with the jobs that they have out there, you know what I'm saying? With the opportunities.
Yes.
I mean, thank God we live in a world that, you know, now you can create so many different opportunities through the, you know, the internet.
Yeah.
And you could do different things. So it's like, I don't, like, nowadays, it's, the knowledge is there. So I will say that, like, the knowledge, it used to be, the problem was we didn't have the knowledge. Now I will say, knowledge is no more the problem. You know, you can go on YouTube and you can find everything. You can go to the library, you know, you could, whatever the knowledge is there. Yeah. So now it is us to a point, but it's still a process.
No, I agree. I agree. It takes two. Like, it's one thing, right? It's like, well, it's like saying, you know, we all have access, right? So we all have equal access to the hospital. But when that bill hits, do we have equal access to insurance? Yeah. Same kind of concept, right? We all have this equal access to information, but not everybody has this. Yeah. Yep. Not everybody has a, you know, phone or that kind of thing. But thankfully, there's libraries where you can go, to the internet for free. You just get your library card and you should be able to log on for free if you're close to a library. Charging centers, things like that, low cost phones. Be surprised. You'd be surprised. Sometimes there's small solutions for these things that can make people's lives a lot easier.
Really, and sometimes the hardest part is starting, and it's for so many different things. It's so many different things. I'm talking about for a business. I think about people like when they come to me and they say, "Y'all want to start a podcast," but equipment and all that is expensive, and it's like I get you, or like an apartment, you got to come up with first month, last month security, furniture. And it's like some people are good with the long term. Some people are good with the work ethic. Some people are good for paying the rent every month, but it's like they can't even just start. And it's like I think we just need more systems in place to just help people get the ball rolling.
For sure.
It's tough, especially because not everybody has people that could help them out. Not everyone has those resources, and we just need more systems in play to just help people get started. Yeah. And
or even just connecting with the right people to get them started.
Exactly.
Connecting somebody that has the knowledge and the guidance to show them the right path, so that path isn't so bumpy anymore. It's a little bit more clear. It gives you a little bit of a game plan, kind of like what you do with the vision board.
Yeah.
There's people that do that for housing, for finding a job, for getting on the right path, right? That is backed by federal money. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like now you have the personal aspect to it, the human aspect that gives you the guidance, and then the monetary resource. You put that together, and that's when you have the power to really make that. And that's why, donating to certain causes is so important, because that money does inevitably drive the need to keep providing those things, because everything costs money in this world,
Yeah, 1,000%. It does cost money, and it's all a process. You know what I'm saying? But and then it's anyone that is interested in the whole real estate stuff, study it, because it's super, super powerful, and it's it's something that I just laughed at a little commentary in the back. So it's such good for long-term growth and long-term cash flow, and that's why I'm on it, because I'm not trying to work forever. I'm not trying to do what I do forever. We're always gonna have the brand, we're always gonna have the business, but it's like those different things that you consider work, not trying to do forever. And also I'm trying to set things up. I want Jay to be good forever. I want my loved ones to be good. And it's like real estate, once you have that building, you're always collecting rents.
Yes.
And like we said in the beginning, I'm not talking about rape people. I'm talking about be fair. You know what I'm saying?
Not talking about exploitation.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm saying be fair.
Yes.
But it's a long-term investment that, people, you can get started for not a lot of money. It sounds like a lot of money now, but you can go to another state. You can go to maybe Illinois or Kentucky or Kansas or Texas or upstate New York, and you could buy a house for $100,000, and you don't need that full 100. You maybe just need 10,000, 20,000. To get into it and to start really getting into it. So that's what I'm trying to learn about, because obviously I don't got none of that to buy no places here right now, but it's a small steps, great distances. You got to start from somewhere. So I follow Grant Cardone, and I follow Jamal King. Jamal King was a retired police officer. And Grant Cardone, they're both two gentlemen that really teach me a lot. And if you really want to help your city, I think real estate is really where at first it's at, flipping homes and fixing those old abandoned buildings, and even where there's stores, and helping creating jobs for people, like enhancing options.
Job creation is big.
Like you don't have to buy land to create, have franchises come in. You could create land for small businesses, and it gives small business owners opportunity.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's that balance that I think, and that's why I love the conversation of it, because I hear a lot of negative connotation when it comes to gentrification. So I'm like, how could we switch it to where there's balance with it, so it's not so negative,
Well, I think that we have to keep in mind that gentrification is inherently a negative. Do you get what I'm saying? It's the act of doing good by doing it is not gentrification. The gentrification part is the exploitation. You don't get gentrification without exploitation.
So what would you call then what I'm talking about?
You're talking about improvement. I think.
Just yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it's like Newark. Like if you're talking about there's like Newark's parts of Newark is split up, or even Patterson being a really good example where there's like parts of it that are like that were considered the quote unquote hood that people would never even look to invest in, but because they flipped the house over there, now it's being sold for a certain amount of money and different people are moving in and pushing people from the neighborhood out. That is gentrification. So that's what I try to kind of explain is when we talk about that in specific, if we even just look for the definition, it's the process whereby the character of a poor urban area is changed by wealthier people moving in, improving and attracting new businesses, typically displacing current inhabitants in the process. Now, anything outside of that is not gentrification. If we're talking about coming in, improving, building businesses without exploiting and pushing the people that already exist out, if people are able to, that have lived there, that are working class people, are able to enjoy the cities that they've lived in their whole lives, live in the same homes without being price gouged, that is not gentrification.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the thing. So yeah, it should have, I think, negative connotations because it is. Yeah. I think it's negative for everybody that's not making money from it.
1,000%. Yeah. So it's on that side of it. So it's like, so you say improvement, I think enhancement, but it's like, because there's some type of word that needs to be, created for that improvement, that like there has to be some.
There's definitely a word. I would probably call it investing into a city, in a way that's non-exploitive, and investing in a way that's creating jobs, right? Yeah. Because again, we talk about, it said typically displacing current inhabitants in the process. There's a difference between somebody moving out of a place because they felt, now it's time for me to move out and go do something better.
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody moving out for survival.
Exactly.
That's the difference. And then we say, yeah, the gentrification is inherently bad. But if we're talking about investing, positive investing, we're investing to build a future where the people in that city can continue to benefit from that. If the people that already live there benefit from it, then I don't see that being in line with gentrification.
Yeah.
I think one, you have benefits from the inhabitants, and one, you have displacement. And those are two very, very clear things. It's like somebody coming into, a small town and taking their oil, and the people that live in that town get no money from it. And then they have to move out because there's earthquakes and there's problems going on. That is, I think, the core difference there.
Well, there's definitely a difference of it. It's just, it's just people, I think sometimes people don't think about that middle.
I don't think I think people are mistaken. There's a lot of people that are having the conversations, and especially if there's somebody that's like, gentrification, there's no problem with it. I don't know why people are mad. You're obviously mistaken, and you're not educated on what it is.
Yeah, they're confused because they're probably just thinking
you're not using the right definition. At the end of the day, you're not using the right definition. You're wrong.
Which what's crazy? I looked it up last night, right? Because when I started thinking about this, I was like, wow, there are so many different definitions. You should look on Google and look through all the different ones. Some of them seem like it's just enhancement. Yours was very clear. I don't know. Where did you look it up?
Right here on Google.
Yeah. It's crazy because
It's
it's like
yeah,
I think when some people they don't know. I don't think some people understand that aspect of
yeah,
I think they just think they're like very one sided, and they just think,
yeah.
oh no, it's just enhancing the city. They don't
I mean,
realize that
but
it's like
enhancing the
yeah,
city is enhancing the city, right? It's like
not yeah
it's like I say, always go back to the allegory of the oil. You cannot
yeah.
go into a place, displace its people, and that be something that is inherently positive.
It's 100%.
It is only positive for the people that are benefiting from that.
Yeah,
And there is a relationship that can have both the citizens and the investors benefiting from it.
yeah,
But the relationship that gentrification has, I think, is one that is um unbalanced, or where one person is benefiting so much more where somebody else is losing completely.
exactly.
It's the difference between paying a little bit more in rent and being outbought. That is it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very big very big difference to it.
Yeah,
A couple dollars extra on your rent or a couple hundred is a big fucking deal.
it truly is, because at the end of the day, a couple hundred in a year is the difference between a family being able to afford daycare, or a family being able to afford food on the table, or whatever, by whatever means, whatever is for that. But and now I'm curious, what's the opposite of gentrification?
Yeah, see, I got you
You
thinking
know what
now.
I'm saying now?
Word.
Because obviously it's just a word to describe a scenario. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's
Because
very,
I'm
very
also
interesting.
thinking what to title this episode, like gentrification versus improvement.
Yeah, I mean, I think I
Right?
I mean, hmm, when does it become gentrification?
Yeah.
When does it become it? At what point does the line need to be crossed? I think there's a clear line in the sand.
Yeah, exactly. Like once you get over that certain, that's like you just know. Like once you start really playing with certain numbers and stuff, it's like nah, nah, Duke.
When you got a knock on the old lady's door that's been there for 20 years and tell her that her rent is $300 more, you are officially a gentrifier.
Yeah,
Even if you
yeah.
gotta
That's a
even if you gotta hire somebody to do it for you, you're officially a
yeah. No,
gentrifier.
that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
If you come into a new neighborhood and uh see kids that have lived there their whole life playing, and get angry when they're playing too loudly around you
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
because you're not
trash.
from this place. You know what I'm saying? And you call
Yeah.
the cops on them. You're a gentrifier.
Oh, I think. Well,
If you
that's just trash. That's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother
you
level.
both. You both.
Yeah.
But no, seriously. And but I only use that example because that's stuff that has happened.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? That's things that happens when people get displaced. It's like, you know, it's a slippery slope.
Mm.
It's a slippery slope, but we can find a balance.
Yes.
Just takes a lot of work and a well thought out plan. Because at the end of the day, it's a business. If you're looking at realty like a business, your business practices can either be ethical or they can be unethical.
Mm.
They can either be exploitive or they can be beneficial.
Yeah.
What route as a business owner are you going to choose to go?
And I think it's so doing it the right way, doing improvements and enhancing the right
Yes.
way, I think could really be so beneficial.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes people don't get it. Like when I had that conversation with Jay, it was, why wouldn't you do it in a nicer area? And it's like, there's a beauty in improving something.
For sure.
Know? And because if there's no improvement, how is it ever going to change?
I mean, it has to start somewhere.
Yeah. Like even if it's the most smallest thing. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. I mean, like I would love maybe one day, maybe I'll sit down. I have to sit down with the mayor and talk about this. But I would love to see a community garden over here in Passaic. You know, something that is inherently an improvement that many benefit from, and could possibly create jobs. Who knows? Who knows what we can see from it? You know.
Yeah.
But I do believe that there's a way forward that I think involves a collaborative effort with towns, you know, the town people and the city people and those that have the means to get the funding to get it done.
Yeah.
There's a future for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a process, you know? It's definitely a process. So yeah, that's really all I had on it. You know, it was just interesting. You know, it was interesting to hear that perspective, especially from a 13-year-old when I brought it up. You know, it was like, because she knows the area isn't the best. She knows, she's like, you know, you never know. She was like, the tenants maybe drug users or something like that, or like, and it's like, yeah, but you know what I mean? Like there, you know, you could,
but
like,
somebody doing drugs doesn't make them inherently bad either, and undeserving of being able to rent a property. I mean, at the end of the day, those are always questions, right? And I think it's incredible that she's having this conversation, you know, and acknowledging the things that are, you know, happening. But I think, you know, I think assessing the situation, okay, I mean, or maybe respectively, some people are, you know, need help and do need an opportunity just to kind of bump them up a little bit. Never know. Never know what somebody's going through, you know, that small thing could help.
Yeah, having a nicer place to live in, you know, having options and just having their city just, you know, rebuilt a little bit and just improved for them, because it might change their life. It may change their perspective on how you see things. Because if you go outside every single day and you see a shitty neighborhood,
what does that do to your mood? What does that do to your perspective of this place? You know, it's a lot. I think it is a lot, I think, to deal with. Yeah. That's a big deal.
So, yeah, it just really made me think, and that's what spreaded my whole thing on this topic, because it's just like, wow, like, just interesting.
It is. I thought this was a great conversation. Oh my God, an hour passed by like that.
Yeah, I'm loving that Zoom didn't cut us off. This either means two things. This means either Zoom charged me and I didn't know about it for a pro membership, or we won them. We're beating them over. I don't know, because I was getting nervous. I was like, damn, it's gonna pop up. It's gonna pop up. And in the editing process, it's so difficult in the editing process to change, like, to do the two files. Zoom is annoying like that.
Pain in the ass. Awesome. Damn, so we got lucky. Yeah. Oh. Okay, so no, I didn't find the right term for it. There's not a right term for it.
You thought you did?
One of the terms was urban renewal, but there was another term that's called restructuring or redevelopment. But I'm going to be honest with you, like, I feel like, especially in politics, a lot of these terms are veiled to be public terms
to sound
that
good.
are not necessarily because somebody could, you know, a developer could come in and say, we're doing urban renewal, and what they mean there is they know it's gentrification, but they're using this colloquial term to hide what they're saying. But I mean, maybe just restructuring. I don't know. I think that's another conversation to be had, maybe another day after some more research, because now I'm curious.
See,
I'm very curious.
It's just interesting because it's like, what do you call that? Like, that's why I wanted to, you know, dig into it and just kind of just see different people's perspectives on it, because some people could think it's positive in a weird way. Some people could not see those, like I said, those sides to where it is exploiting. They just don't know. Like, if they don't know.
Yeah, no, I think they just don't know. Don't know.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, if you're using the term gentrification, it is a definition for something very specific. If we're talking about housing and development.
Yeah.
So, anything outside of that is going to be something different, but I don't know. It's hard to find like positives outside of investors benefit when I think of that word.
Yeah, exactly. But if someone's listening to this, be inspired to enhance, to improve your city. You know what I'm saying? Like, use this to think about this, to figure out what route you would want to go about it. But remember that you can make change. And in the process, I think if people are thinking, one thing, show them with the results. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like, show them with the results. If people are like, oh, you're buying that building, what you going to do to it? Show them the results. Show them that you're making it affordable. Yeah. Showing that you're not going to, take someone out of it. Like, because it can almost stop people, I think. It can almost stop people from buying in their hood or buying where they live because they feel like they're going to be looked at.
Want to stay. Yeah, where they want to stay. Yeah. Right? The places where their families may very well still live. Most people just want to be with their family.
Yeah. So like,
you
don't have to not do anything at all. It's like people, I feel like they don't know that middle ground. They don't really know. And then they're just like, oh, we're just not going to do anything at all or move to a whole nother state. And it's like, do you really need to do that?
Very extreme. Yeah.
Or could you, kind of put your hand in to help improve it?
Yeah. And always remember too, people listening, that, there's people that have the same ideas as you. And who knows, y'all might hit it off and invest together. There's ways of connecting with people that are like-minded, that have the same goals as you. Even if you're not trying to invest in a house, maybe you're just trying to invest in a community center, or maybe you're trying to invest in a community garden or a center, or hell, donating to the parks for a new swing set. You know what I'm saying? Like, the simple things, there's a route and an avenue for that. I remember maybe it was last year. I was in a park hanging out with my daughter, and I hear this guy, a grown adult man, yelling at these boys playing basketball. They were probably like 12, 13 years old. And he is cursing up a storm, talking about, I own this court. I donated blah, blah, blah to this court. I don't care how much that you donated. If you're walking around acting like that, get out. Because that's not why one should be investing into it. Not to say that they own it or to hold it on some high horse, but to actually do something good with it. As opposed to yelling at some kids that you invested a lot of money into somebody's property.
Yeah, it's a park. They're there to would you rather them in the streets?
So there's ways that we can all, even if it's not, like you said, investing into real estate, something small, even if it's investing in a shelter locally or a food pantry locally, or donating your time, because our time is something that we can't get back. There's different things that we can do to help that is not necessarily in need of a lot of money, but does require time.
Yeah.
And most towns too hire for to help with the voting process. So we're gonna have some elections coming up soon, because we're in the new year. And they pay you for the day. So you just go to your city hall, give them a call and say, hey, are there any, small openings for participating in this, or paid gigs for that? And a lot of times that they have them available, even if it's something small, like $200 or $300 for a single day gig, there's something there.
It adds up. And I want to also add on to that fact of what you said about bringing people together too, because that's one thing really that I've learned too about just investing in general, investing in, especially in your city and in real estate or things like that. Like, you don't have to do it alone, but like you said, there's many people who share the same beliefs as you. And, like, that's one big thing I've learned from Grant Cardone. Like, he's like, look, listen, it doesn't matter if you don't have money, do the other work, do the grunt work. Like, let's just say I don't have any money. I maybe do all the research, or I maybe do all the X,
She's
Y,
in the
Z.
bathroom, babe.
And then you find someone else that has the money, or you just all divide it up. And it's like, yeah, your piece isn't going to be as big as before, but it's leverage till continuing through the next thing. Like if you want to build a garden, maybe find 4 of the friends and you each put in $2,000. You know, $2,000 real quick adds up times 4. You know what I mean? Like, so don't be afraid in doing that. There's other people that want those things. And, you know, we have Facebook groups.
Just like you,
You know, we have Facebook options, groups. You know, use our social media to connect with people that really want to make that change as well. Just back to, you know, how we always say on here, you know, we're always stronger together. So when you want change in that aspect, and sometimes even if it has to do with money, you guys can pull in, and money multiplies quick once you start adding people. Like just imagine if you had 6 people that all put in $2,000. That's $12,000 right there. And you know, you save the $2,000 over a couple months, and it's like what you can make that change with. So you know, there's even real estate. You know, a lot of times people have cousins and friends, 6 people, whatever. It's like, yo, if you and your cousins just all put in, you get your first thing of real estate.
Yeah. And, you know, to the person, you know, that might be listening that thinks maybe, you know, the more people, the more complicated it gets. You're right. Definitely. You're right.
Yeah.
But there's a way to delegate jobs. There's a way to find a structure that works for you, whether you want to be an organization, you know, what is it? Nonprofit organization, whether that's the route that you want to go, or, you know, you're just trying to get together with a few of your cousins, like you said, or brothers and sisters to buy a house. No, you know, the legal things that you might have to do that might make things easier later on. When it comes to ownership of certain things, like it's a start. Just have the conversation.
Yep, it's definitely a start. You know what I'm saying? It's, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah. No, but, you're absolutely right.
But yeah, I think we'll definitely touch on this more too. And I wish Tay and Zane were able to make it as well too.
I know, this would have been such an interesting conversation. It was already such an interesting conversation, and the freaking time flew by. Oh my God. That's insane, man. That's crazy.
Love chatting it up with you now as always.
Oh yeah, I love having conversation with you, man. This is so great. I didn't prep at all.
Nah, it's all good. It's better like when we just kick it. I like that real raw, you know? But we gotta get you back in the studio soon though. We gotta get you back. I know,
next week. I was telling you that. I was like, oh, next week. That'll be perfect.
Word.
Yes.
But yeah, laptop is on the verge of death, so we gotta wrap this up soon.
Same.
We're on 8% right now, and it goes from
2%.
2. Oh shit!
Yeah,
all right, what's your shout out?
You go first. Here, it's all good.
Well, I gave mine first. Brick and Dough with Montclair. Check them out. Really fire pizza. What about you, Nat? What you got?
Oh, dang, fudge ripple.
You're putting you on the spot.
You always do. It's okay. It's so good. I have one. For all my I guess, you know, my Latinos out there that are Spanish speaking people that may be listening to this. There's a awesome YouTube channel. It just has these great conversations similar to the conversations that we have on all types of different topics, mostly life, you know, things of that nature. But it's called Razón o Fe, which is Reason or Faith. It's an awesome channel, but it's all Spanish for our Spanish speaking audience. And it's just great. It's filled with conversations. I guess it's similar to ours, but just all Spanish plus subtitles. So yes, enjoy.
I may have to watch it so it can help me learn.
Yeah. Yes, you can have that. Yes, it works.
This podcast was featuring Mello and friends.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
I love it. Nat, see you soon.
Yes, I'll
everyone.
See you soon.
Another episode of Therapy Without a Degree, chapter 191.
91.
We out of here. Peace.
Peace.